Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by IDS, an award-winning digital marketing agency that delivers integrated marketing solutions for franchisors, franchisees, and franchise development teams. Learn why over 75 brands depend on IDS's team of dedicated marketers and client service professionals to deliver a strong ROI on their marketing investment. Go to idsfranchisemarketing.com for a complimentary digital audit and consultation.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ganley. And as always, it's great having another guest on the program with me. I have Nicole Reinhardt. She is a franchise owner, a multi-unit franchise owner in 2 different states, Colorado and Florida, for Property Management Inc. franchise. It's great to have you on the show today, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about that. I know, being with a franchise background like myself, I know getting to a multi-unit franchise situation isn't easy, right? And I also know you have a pretty long career background. And so tell me a little bit about how you got started and how you see your future going.
Yeah. So the way I got started was kind of off a completely different path. I was a registered nurse for 20 years, been a nurse since I was 18 years old, and that's really kind of all I knew, and decided that healthcare just wasn't what I wanted to do anymore after about 18 years. I just decided that it just wasn't going in the direction I had planned, and it wasn't a career I wanted to continue. And so, but I had no idea what to do. And I kind of talked to the wise one in my life, which was my father. And we sat down and had a brainstorm, and he said, well, why don't you do some property management? And I said, well, I don't know anything about it. And he goes, well, aren't you a landlord? Don't you own properties? And I'm like, well, yeah, I own one. I'm not an expert, and I don't know if I would know how to manage other people's property. And so I kind of, sat on that for a while, and I teamed up with a franchise coach, really, and they did, the long interview with me and had me answer all those questions. And wouldn't you know it, every franchise that would come up had a medical background, medical sales, medical device sales, home care. And I started interviewing with them, and it just wasn't in my heart. It wasn't my passion. And I was like, we've got to do something different. And she's like, well, have you ever thought about doing property management? I'm like, you know what? You're the second person who said that to me, so maybe it's in my cards. So I said, well, I'll have a conversation, because I have this great management company who's really just getting their roots going that you would probably enjoy being a part of. And so I started with their sales individual, which is an ironic story, which I'll kind of get back to that in a minute. But I started talking to their sales rep at the time, and Jeremiah, and we developed this relationship. I felt like he understood where I was going in life and what I wanted to do and succeed. And then he's like, I think you would be a great candidate. I'm going to have our CEO, the founder of PMI, give you a call. And I remember very distinctly, I was driving around. This is over a course of probably about 2 or 3 weeks, but I had transitioned into home care because I wanted to be closer to my kids. I had small children at the time. I had a 3-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 14-year-old boys. And I remember what I was doing. I was doing some home care, and I had stopped to pick up something at the pharmacy, and I was sitting in the parking lot, and I got a phone call from Steve Hart. And the man just kind of pulled at my heartstrings and just touched me with his story and his passion for his vision of what a franchise with property management should look like. He didn't want to be a slumlord. He didn't want to, grow out his infrastructure. He just wanted to get some really good people with some great ideas and some great visions in his brand. And I just could connect to him. And we sat and talked just about life for, it would just seem like forever. The conversation just continued and continued. Now, granted, I was franchise number like 54, and they're above 450 right now. So this was a good almost 10 years ago. But still to this day, that man has the same vision, the same goals. He still speaks from the heart. And it's just somebody, even though we don't work for him, he's not like our boss. I just feel like every day I wake up and I've got to go execute Steve's vision. He just kind of pulled at your heartstrings. And so when I said I was working with my franchise or the business development coach, his name is Jeremiah. Jeremiah actually is now the VP of Property Management Incorporated. And so he went from a sales side, being his own person, integrated into the company that he was selling because he was so passionate about it and Steve's vision, to actually working as a VP in the franchise. And so, I started from zero. I started from nothing. I was nothing special. I just, decided that I woke up and said, I want to be my own boss. And I think property management's it. And I felt passionate about the brand and just started hitting the pavement. Like I said, did nothing special to grow my business. Yeah. Sole proprietor, really just worked myself, worked at it myself.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, your story it's great to hear it. I never get tired of that story. But it's a similar pattern because a lot of people are out there in another career and at some point think to themselves, I think I want to do something different, or maybe I really want to work for myself. Mm-hmm. For me, it was, I wish I had discovered sooner that I probably should have started right out of the gate working for myself. But, you learn. And, some people are wired that way. And franchising is such a great bridge to being able to do that. Right. Yep. It really, I was sharing something earlier about the validation of when you're starting a business, it can be very scary. And when you're doing it around others that have done it successfully and done it and can do it and be an example of success for you, that's one of the biggest advantages of starting a franchise. Because at some point we hit that wall where if there's not people around us to reassure us, it's hard. So no doubt it's a big part of why you were able to be successful, but also has a lot to do with you, right? And you wound up being in more than one market. So tell me a little bit about being in two markets. So you were in Colorado to start, I believe, and then now you're expanding in Florida. Tell me a little bit about the differences there. How do you kind of compare the two in terms of launching the franchise, but, marketing it and, how are the markets different, I guess? Is there a challenge with that? And how have you overcome that?
Yeah. So, my primary market was Colorado and the Colorado Springs area, and did residential as well as association management there, in El Paso County. And within the, another reason why I feel strongly about a franchise is because just like what you said, Rob, it was, you're a sole proprietor and you're an owner operator, and it's lonely. It's a lonely position to be in. However, that franchise brings the camaraderie and the family and those people that are dealing with the same system softwares, challenges that you are. And they're owner operators too. And you can rely on them and confide in them. They become your family, Rob. They really do. They just become part of your family. And, 6 of my best friends to this day are PMI franchises. And so I had been going to Florida, visiting a friend of mine who had a franchise in Lakeland. And I was going back and forth visiting with her. And she's like, you just need to move out here. And I was like, how am I supposed to do that? My job is back in Colorado. And she's like, well, just buy a franchise here. And I was like, well, okay. And just kind of blew it off. And then one of the franchisees, unfortunately, had to sell his franchise in Tampa. And he called me up and said, hey, Nicole, I understand you're spending a lot of time in Florida. do you want to buy my franchise? And I'm like, oh my God, yes, I want your franchise. And so that's kind of how we got into Florida. It was already established, but another thing about being in a franchise, it's its own internal referral, base to grow in multi markets. And so that's really how we started to get to the Florida area. And then from there, we expanded over into Panama City, Florida, which is the Panhandle. And I chose that area because I have family there. And I was choosing areas where I actually had family, friends, where I actually liked to be, because it made the visits, the marketing strategy a little bit easier because I knew something about the market. And then to kind of elaborate on that multi-market concept is the six of us, the six friends, the six best friends who have franchises in Kansas City, 2 in Indianapolis, 1 in Lakeland, 1 in Virginia. We all got together and bought another franchise as a partnership down in Fort Myers. This is the power of the brand and a franchise, where you can find these relationships and develop these relationships, then to go off and do something bigger and better with a group of people that have the same philosophy and the same kind of mindset as you do. And so that's kind of how I developed and how my progression into the multi-market happened.
Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. And that is an interesting thing. It's one thing to say, well, it's great to be a part of a franchise, and it really greatly increases your odds of success. And sure, it's great to have a local business here in Colorado, right? But to think even broader like you are and have those opportunities, yeah, that's another level that you probably weren't even thinking about when you got started.
No.
But what an amazing blessing it is now, right? Yep. But clearly these different markets, it's funny, you said, well, you kind of knew the market and it helped. But what are those unique, like, how do you adapt marketing, or do you have to? Is it very similar approach in each market for PMI, or is there some adaptation that you have learned, or any ideas that you, or things, lessons learned, I guess, in doing different markets?
Yeah. So, the way that Colorado and Florida are set up are extreme opposites when it comes to landlord tenant, laws and responsibilities, and even how, the legislator views each one of those completely different. We're talking, California, Colorado, California, right? And so completely different way of thinking. And so the markets are different when it comes even to residential. Florida is somewhat balanced when it comes to landlord tenant, and Colorado is more heavily tenant. And then you have the associations that we manage. And, Florida, you have snow and heat issues, and in Colorado, you have snow and heat issues. In Florida, you have, hurricanes and salt water breaking down everything, and you don't have snow. And so, and you have, 9-story condos on the beach. And so it's a completely different mindset. And so you have to adapt, and you have to know your local and state rules, licensure. You don't have to be licensed in Colorado to manage associations. You definitely have to be licensed in Florida. And so when you do go to in these markets, to do that due diligence, and honestly, one of the things that the franchise brought to me was those different requirements, because there's other franchisees already in those markets that were like, okay, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. Hey, where's the best place to start marketing? Go to your, local chamber of commerce, just some of these things that to integrate yourself into the markets was very helpful, brainstorming with other franchisees. But that's kind of how we started, was to go meet with the Chamber of Commerce, being a member of that chamber, integrating into their vendors and whatnot, and really getting to know kind of that mix of people, because those are business-minded people that you want to start with. And so that's kind of how we kind of step foot into a market.
Gotcha. And how much does like the digital marketing side play into things? How much do you guys, I mean, obviously I'm sure reviews play into it and different things, but tell me a little bit about that. How do you deal with that?
Well, being a property manager, you're always, the bad person when it comes to reviews, and then you get those people who know people and people, and they give you 1-star reviews. And so, you have to just answer them back and play that game. However, digital marketing definitely plays a role in anything we do now. I have owners in my single family properties that I've never met. They've been deployed overseas for years. They call you up and say, hey, I have a house. My tenants are getting ready to move out and I've been self-managing and I don't want to do it anymore. And so, having that digital marketing presence helps them find you when it comes to your, what you offer. And so putting all of that information and having a very robust digital marketing footprint really does help catapult. And that, again, franchise brings the power of the brand and brings the power in numbers to be able to come up with a clean, crisp, footprint that is SEO'd all over the world. And again, that's above my pay grade, but I just go, okay. And it makes it happen because it's it's not me doing it as Mr. Little Mr. One-man show that can barely understands what SEO is. So, so that it's very important to have that digital footprint in this industry.
Yeah, no doubt. So I know, obviously your journey here has been really, really a good one. And it's interesting, some of the relationships that you've created and both on a personal and a business level. And I know that you've become a mentor. I don't know how recent, I think in the last few years. And, but tell me a little bit about that. And also if you have any advice for anyone that might be thinking either about business ownership in the franchise world, or even specifically about your industry. But first with the mentoring, tell us a little bit about that. And then any advice you have for folks that are where you were in 2014.
So as Property Management Incorporated was growing, we, the corporate office, and I was always been very ingrained in the corporate office, but we decided, as we were talking, we realized that we just need local individuals, boots on the ground that knows the different rules, regs, legislative issues that are coming down, be able to help with contracting and whatnot at the local level, because every state's different. Every municipality, different municipalities are different as well. And so they said, there's key markets that we think we have some rock stars in, if you will, and let's start there. And so I was approached. I think I was the 4th regional mentor chosen. And actually, I am the only regional mentor currently that actually started at 0 within the franchise. So I'm the grown baby is what they call me. I'm the franchise grown baby, where the other franchises were actually acquisitions who actually had property management companies and then joined the franchise. And so, so I'm one of 6 regional mentors, and I have the whole state of Colorado, and I think there's 24 of us in Colorado now. So we're one of the bigger states when it comes to Property Management Incorporated locations. And our job is to really, the goal is to help these franchises overcome those startup issues, the failure to launch issues, and being that, eyes and ears that can go out and have lunch and dinner and help them through some, contracting issues. Hey, what is your PMA, property management agreement say? Hey, what does your lease say? Am I going to be breaking any laws? Blah, 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 blah. And just helping them establish that, pick me up, get out the door, go meet people, and kind of be their cheerleader at the same time. I just had a franchisee call me and say, Nicole, I'm just drowning. I just need you to help me. So my franchise was able to kind of step in and help another franchise get back on their feet to be successful. We truly do believe, if one franchise is is stumbling, the rest of us really need to jump in and help that family member. And so we've been able to do that. And I think being that mentor and having that mentor role as I reached out to the folks in Colorado, it makes them turn and, be able to feel comfortable with asking questions and not have to go to corporate because they don't want to go to corporate because they don't want to feel like they're failing. And so they just reach out to, someone with, just a smile and a hug and say, I need to talk to you about my woes, and just having you listen to them so that they're not fearful that the big corporate monster is going to come in. So it's been very helpful. It has shown, the mentors program has definitely shown in the markets where the mentors are more engagement into the franchise when you have that mentor in the market.
Yeah. And so that was a great answer. And I wanted you to follow up because that answer is a great answer for the next follow-up, which was, any advice to someone that's thinking about starting a franchise, or specifically in your industry. And I think part of the answer is, well, look at that, right? I mean, that's an amazing support system. And then that's why, look, franchising is all about expanding a brand, and it's everybody's together, right? Our success is your success. And if you fail, we fail. And that's the beauty of the industry, to tell you the truth. And that's why I love it. And I love talking to people like you. But for those on the outside, Tell us a little bit about, from someone, because you try to go back to 2014, right? You're thinking, can I even do this, right? But tell us a little bit about, now that you're on the other side, any advice or any guidance there?
Yeah. So, my father was kind of my mentor. He has his own business, multi-million-dollar business. And, he's my biggest cheerleader, at the same time, my biggest critic. And he, when I was starting to do this landlord conversation with him, he even said, well, why do you need a franchise? I mean, what are you getting out of that? You can do this yourself. And I'm thinking to him going, I don't even know where to start, Dad. I don't even know how to even get started. I just know I have a thought, but I don't know how to expand that thought. And so, like when I said, when I started talking to Jeremiah and Steve at the PMI corporate office, they were telling me, we're going to give you the software to do it. We're going to give you the tools to do this job, and we're going to do it turnkey. And I thought, that's awesome, because I don't have the time. If I'm going to leave my 6-figure salary in healthcare, I'm thinking of Christmas and birthdays and my 13-year-old who's traveling with his baseball team and it's sucking me dry, and my 3-year-old, and I'm just going, this is not gonna work if I have to sit behind a computer for the next 6 months and try to develop these systems that I don't even know where to start. And so this turnkey kind of operation just seemed very appropriate. And there are people, and I applaud them. There are several people that have started their company and have worked their way up and never needed a franchise. That wasn't me. I needed the camaraderie. I needed the family environment. I worked better in a team. And so the franchise worked very well for me and what I needed. And so again, I applaud those people who've sat behind a computer and come up with their own softwares and systems and do it and are very successful, because they're out there. However, for me and my personality, the family and the franchise was the way to go.
Yeah. I think that's the key. And again, what I would say is to anyone out there that's thinking about a business is, that's the key. That's what drives the success rate of franchise businesses versus independent businesses. And it's the things you don't think about. And you're assuming, and a lot of people that are entrepreneurial, the Steve Harts of the world, your dad, they are unique people. And, not everybody's wired that way, and it's okay not to be, and it's okay to recognize. In fact, it's better to recognize that when you're considering it, right? That's why franchising is such a great opportunity for so many. So that's great. That's great to hear. I really have enjoyed the conversation, and I want to make sure that before we wrap up, that I just ask someone who's now been a mentor, been through the process of starting a business, coming from something like the healthcare field that's very structured, and you do your job every day, but it's like you're not creating things or running a business. So it's very different. But, as a mentor, is there one thing, is there something that has inspired you? Anything you want to leave with the audience that you just think it really has helped you through your life?
I think the one thing that I have told many new franchisees that come, that call me, I get calls from all over the country. And the one thing, I tell them is don't overthink it. Don't spend hours trying to think through scenarios, because it's not going to be the scenario that you're going to encounter. Just have a vision, go do it. Just make it happen and learn along the way. Don't ponder something for too long. Just, don't be a failure to launch, because you're so in the weeds of trying to think of the best way to do it. No one started and it was a seamless and smooth, startup. Startups are, they're rough and rocky. Just, strap on your shoes and go do it. And don't sit behind the computer screen. Just go do it and learn along the way.
Yeah, fantastic advice. And I think about, a lot of us are conditioned to think like we grew up in school with an A to F scale, and no one wants to fail. But the thing about a business is you should get comfortable with it. And failure isn't really failure. It's just process of learning and moving forward. And if you overthink avoiding failure, you tend not to succeed.
Yeah, that's very true. I've had my share of failures that I've learned from, and I still learn from them this day. And I still make mistakes and learn from those failures and say, what, I should probably do that differently next time, and it's just, failure's not failure. It's a different way to look at things and how to grow. It's a growing opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and before we let the audience go, is there a website you'd want to share? I know you're local in Colorado, Florida, and things like that, but is there a main website you'd want to share with the audience in case they're interested in maybe doing what you do, or even in your services locally there?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say just go to the Property Management Inc. Main website. You will, find all of the franchises that are in the family of PMI, and obviously, our local or our franchises in Tampa, Panama City, Colorado Springs. Please visit those if you have any questions. Even if you're like, Nicole, I just want to talk to you one-on-one, just because I may be trying to get into, some other type of idea in franchising, but I just need to know someone was in the boots and in the weeds that I was. Just give me a call. I'd be more than happy to talk to people. I love talking to people about, entrepreneurial type stuff, because it's just you just sometimes need just a pat on the back to go do it. Go out there and do it. You've got the idea, so you go do it. Yeah,
no doubt, and it's true. We're a select bunch too. You need to get around us. We'll help you.
Exactly.
So reach out to Nicole. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, it's great. It's great to have you, and I hope to have you back again soon.
Absolutely.
And bye for now.
Okay. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.